The time will be 4 p.m. When you hear the tone, the time will be 4 p.m. When you hear the tone, the time will be 4 p.m. When you hear the tone, the time will be 4 p.m. Sorry, I'm just doing this to get some extra cash. If you remember back to episode number 3 of my Best of the Beach Boys series, you might recall that 1968 was not a good year for the group, and things weren't looking so hot. Both their studio album, Friends, seen here, in the hits package, which was the subject of the episode, Best of the Beach Boys Volume 3, both of which crashed and burned on the charts, barely charting, setting all new record low sales. Capitol Records was a bit concerned because the group was no longer the strong seller that they used to be, and maybe it was time for the Beach Boys to move on. The only thing that really held the Beach Boys together through 1968 was the very successful hit single and one of their main anthems, Do It Again. Do It Again topped the charts in several parts of the world. It made the top 20 in the US, which for a year, as rotten as 1968, you know, they were going to take what they could get. But Capitol said we must find something, some Beach Boys product that will actually sell. These guys used to be, you know, chart toppers. You know, they used to be such a great draw. And what Capitol ended up coming up with is cited as one of the weirdest and rarest Beach Boys records of all time. Stack O Tracks. Maybe by the end of this video, you'll know what to call this album, because sometimes I'm not exactly sure what to call it. Those of you waiting for my Endless Summer video, don't worry, it's on the way. For an album that is so important and so significant, I'm having a very difficult time writing things to actually say about it. More about that next weekend. Today I thought we'll take a detour and visit Crazyland to see Stack O Tracks. So I showed you the front and the back. Here is a nice photo selection on the sleeve there, or inner gatefold there. And here is a chord chart for your guitar. Why would there be so many guitar chords in here? Well, Stack O Tracks isn't an album in most senses of the word. Indeed, it's almost more of an educational product, because the whole point of Stack O Tracks is to release instrumental versions of Beach Boys songs, the actual backing tracks with the vocals removed, and then encourage you to play instruments or sing along with those songs. It's kind of a non-album album. The Beach Boys aren't the only artists, certainly, to have one of these. The Beatles Story LP, where Beatles covers, you know, instrumental covers and interview footage to kind of chronicle the band, is something similar conceptually. Or the ever-popular Having Fun with Elvis on Stage, Elvis concerts with the songs removed and just him talking with the audience. All of these are non-album albums. But Stack O Tracks is getting closer to something that's like a bankable product. In a lot of ways, I think it was ahead of its time. So I thought today we'll take that chance to kind of talk about it and see what we think. So Stack O Tracks is best remembered today for being very difficult to find. I was really lucky. I found this rather battered vinyl copy for only a few bucks at an antique mall in Iowa. And it came with the coveted music book. Now today, of course, if you want to learn how to play Beach Boys songs, you can go on Amazon or somewhere and you can buy an actual, factual Beach Boys music book. This is the one I use when I try to play their music. Someday I'll upload some music videos here when I actually get good enough to not make people vomit and pass out when they listen. But this is something you can find very easily today, and there are other ones too. Stack O Tracks was kind of ahead of its time in that maybe if you didn't usually buy sheet music, you could buy this and get this cool book. So let's take a look at what songs are in here, and we'll look at the record. We start off with their big 1967 hit Darlin'. There's the lyrics and the notes you need, followed by an album track from 1965's Summer Days and Summer Nights, Salt Lake City, We'll Be Coming Soon. Then we've got, over here, you can see it a bit better, Sloop John B. from Pet Sounds, My Grandfather and Me. Oh, sorry. In My Room, another early 60s one there. Followed by another 1963 one, Catch a Wave. Get some surfing sounds in there. The font of these is so tiny, I don't know how you could read it without a magnifying glass if you were trying to play these. We have a relatively new song at the time, Wild Honey. It was in their live set, the title of an album. Never really became a huge successful single. Little Saint Nick, which is kind of strange, but you know, two of their greatest hits packages had Christmas songs, so I guess they figured why not include a Christmas song here too. I'm convinced that some Capitol record executive was obsessed with Christmas songs. Remember that big single that was keeping them afloat in 1968? Now you can learn to play it. Do it again. Come and do it. Oh, and sorry, I almost missed. Wouldn't it be nice, do 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 do, from Pet Sounds. Definitely leaning not so much towards strictly the oldies. Definitely getting some newer ones on there too at the time. Newer ones getting on there. God Only Knows What I'd Be Without You. And as well as Surfer Girl. Pretty cool. Another early one. And one of the few early ones they were still doing live at that point. I'm going to wake you up early so we can play Little Honda in our ragged sweatshirts. And then go back to Pet Sounds for Here Today. Here Today was the B-side to Darlin', one we saw earlier in this book. It was no doubt included to capitalize on the success of that single, even though Here Today was not really a success in its own right. The B-side to Sloop John B, You're So Good to Me, La 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 La, and then wrapping this up from Summer Days and Summer Nights, Let Him Run Wild. And the back. So you could take your instruments, take your guitar, and play and or sing along with all of these tunes. Pretty nifty stuff. Stacko Tracks was a complete failure. It didn't even chart. The first Beach Boys or even Beach Boys related LP to not chart at all. And it was quickly discontinued, deleted from the catalog, and really up until the release of Beach Boys Rarities in 1983 was kind of the black sheep of the Beach Boys family. It just didn't have a following. Nobody really cared about it. Let's take a quick peek at the LP, the actual record itself. Notably, you can see, of course, on the front, stereo, that sort of thing. But as far as I know, all copies of Stacko Tracks were duophonic. And you can see there. And the other side. Nice capital rainbow for you. The record itself is in pretty good shape. The sleeve is really beat up. I don't doubt that somebody bought this and just put it somewhere and forgot about it, and that was that. Alright, so is it really viable or bankable to make a whole album of backing tracks, of instrumental versions? Probably not, and indeed for a very long time this was the only way you could listen to the Beach Boys songs without the vocals. That has changed somewhat over the years. In 1993, the Beach Boys box set, their 30th anniversary box set, 30 Years of Good Vibrations, came out. It contained a few backing tracks, a few kind of curios in that regard. They certainly weren't the big bankable part of the set. They were just kind of an interesting extra. And since Good Vibrations was so successful in 2001, Hawthorne, California, which is kind of like a miniature box set, as close to a box set as you can get with 2 CDs, has several backing tracks on it as well. Again, not really a huge draw, but definitely an interesting addition. Pet Sounds in 1996 and again in 2016 has gotten giant jumbo box sets. Here's the 50th anniversary one from 2016. Both that 30th and 50th one have the entire album in instrumental form, in, I guess, Stacko Tracks form. So some of these Pet Sounds songs that appeared on here, God Only Knows, Wouldn't It Be Nice, Here Today, came back into the limelight again as instrumentals for Pet Sounds. Or for the Pet Sounds box sets. That's pretty cool. So there's a little bit of double dipping there. If you collect Beach Boys stuff, you're gonna double dip. Sorry, that's how it goes. The big 50th anniversary box set made in California had some backing tracks on there too. And some of those ones like Darlin' and Wild Honey, their instrumentals, sometimes with backing vocals or sessions as well, came into play in 2017 for the 50th anniversary of Wild Honey. So some of these backing tracks, at least in some form, are available on other, more contemporary releases, probably getting a nice remaster, that sort of thing. So is Stacko Tracks still relevant? I say yes. It's a good way to get a lot of their really early songs in instrumental form. I can't think of anywhere else. You might see Surfer Girl or Catch a Wave. And it's just an interesting product of its time, too. Stacko Tracks made it to CD, both individually, but more famously as a double bill with Beach Boys Party. I guess they were looking for something to pair Party with, and thought that Pet Sounds wouldn't be appropriate, or the Christmas album wouldn't be appropriate, so they picked Stacko Tracks. The liner notes in the booklet by David Leaf make it clear that while Stacko Tracks was just a cash grab, pushed out to have some kind of bankable Beach Boys product, it actually has a lot of merit. It's a fun way to listen to the music and to learn the music. It's not just some kind of cheapo cash grabbing job. And they continue to make Beach Boys releases that contain backing tracks. It'll be Feel Flows. This smaller Feel Flows doesn't really have too many, but the bigger sets do. In fact, you can pretty much listen to instrumental or near instrumental versions of all of Sunflower and all of Surf's Up, their first two albums from the 70s. So backing tracks, still relevant. Stacko Tracks still has some unique songs, or unique mixes I should say, to it. You know, it's still a viable part of everyone's Beach Boys collection. It's often unfairly neglected. Maybe because, what exactly do you call this? Wikipedia classifies it as a themed collection. I don't really like that label, because all of this is previously released material, but released in a new way. I would call it a remix album, something more akin to Beach Boys with the Royal Philharmonic from 2018, which was old stuff in a new way. And it's kind of the same thing Stacko Tracks was. I think in a lot of ways it was ahead of its time, and maybe pandering a little too much toward the collector's market, when maybe, you know, there wasn't really the big nostalgic Beach Boys collector's market there is today. It was released in the UK and other parts of Europe with an alternate cover. It has like a wooden crate with Beach Boys tapes in it. And from what I've gathered, the booklet or the supplemental paper that was included is only the lyrics, not the music. So you could sing along with the songs, but you couldn't actually play along with them. So I'm very curious to know your thoughts on Stacko Tracks. Is it just a cheapo cash grab? Was it ahead of its time? Are backing tracks actual viable things you can sell for your favorite group, or are they best, left in the vaults and, they're not really made for mass, consumption? Curious to know what you think. If you have this album, or know anyone who does, or if you have any thoughts on it, please do leave them below. And tune in next time for that endless summer video I've been promising you for weeks. Hope you enjoyed today's little detour, and I hope to see you again next time. Thank you.